Now to Stars and Gripes, where we expose the US media. But before we go and get mean, how about a small bit of praise for CNN?
Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
But I
and
wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider. But the president has his own exposure, so he's always projecting.
Okay, yes, I know what you're thinking. Perhaps Pelosi could have been asked this question earlier, at an earlier point in her career, but at least Jake Tapper asked it. And of course, I'm joined here by author and commentator Shemeka Michelle to discuss this strange pivot by CNN. I mean, Shemeka, Nancy Pelosi must be so confused. Her entire career, the hundreds and hundreds of years that she's been in being a lawmaker, she's been asked the softest questions by this news organisation. Now, all of a sudden, we're asking about insider trading. It's getting good.
Yes, I do think CNN has made a great pivot. I mean, I actually wanted to ask anyone if they wanted any ranch dressing with the word salad that Nancy gave us in response. But I am just so thankful that CNN is actually asking the questions. I think that they've seen their ratings tank. We saw that when they got rid of Joy Reid's show. They're watching their ratings tank and they feel like they have to do something. So let's go after the woman that's been in office, as you said, hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah, definitely. And Shemeka, there's always these memes as well about, hey, if you want to pick some good stocks, go see what Nancy Pelosi and her husband are picking, because somehow over the years they've managed to outperform everyone. It is a legitimate point to be made. Obviously, lawmakers, they are privy to inside information. And here in Australia, we've got very strict rules on what kind of assets politicians can own, when they have to declare. It seems to me, as an onlooker looking onto the US system, that there is some reform that's desperately needed.
Absolutely. We need a lot of changes around here, and it would start with term limits. That's what we need here, and we're desperate to have it. But so many people in office, I was looking at something from years ago, watching Maxine Waters, and I was talking to someone and I said, you know, she's still in office. And they said, wait a minute, she was old then. And I said, yes, and she's even older now, but she's still in office. We need changes, and it's going to start with term limits. But the people voting on it don't want to be voted out.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely great idea. But moving on, because by now you would have seen some of the backlash to actress Sydney Sweeney, who was proudly showing off her blue jeans.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Well, because Sweeney is beautiful and, last time I checked, appears to be white, some crazed activists thought it was akin to eugenics, even invoking the phrase Nazism.
Hey, American Eagle, now do black and brown women. Because black and brown women also have great genes that they inherit from their parents. Did you know that? They also have butts that look really good in genes as well.
Don't forget to boycott American Eagle for their racist online, talking about blue jeans and white people.
And I don't know why. Maybe because it's just so blatant. I keep thinking that people just are not going to believe us until we're hung out there.
And of course, journalists could not help themselves. Our taxpayer-funded ABC here in Australia said that this was valid criticism in a headline. They were quoting a TikToker. but they still put that in the subheading, which I think is remarkable. They went on to write this: given the current political climate in the US, the reaction online was valid. Now, imagine going to journalism school for several years only to graduate, land a cushy taxpayer-funded gig where you write a 1,200-word article about whether a white woman is allowed to be attractive and also sell jeans. Grow up. The journalist goes on then to quote a brand consultant who, in the ABC's own words, said had noticed more advertisements featuring white models. I can see us going back to a world where diversity is not really the standard expectation in advertising. There you have it. Being angry that a white woman features in an ad doesn't seem very diverse and tolerant to me. Well, Shemeka, let's bring you into this conversation. I get crazy people on TikTok, right? I understand that you've got the fringes, the 5% that legitimately, from what it appears to be, just don't like that she's white and that she's pretty and that she is successfully selling products for a company. But for the media, for mainstream media to legitimize these concerns, talk about eugenics, talk about how this is akin to Nazi propaganda, what do you make of all of this?
You know, I think there are two people that watch this ad, or two types of people. You have your insecure people, and then you
Yes.
have confident people. The confident people saw the ad and said to themselves, like I did, oh, I have good genes or great genes too. But then you have the insecure people, they may be out of shape, overweight, just not really good lookers, they don't look good. They are very insecure. And so I don't think that has a place, whether it's on TikTok or it's in journalism. There are no lines. There are insecure people that are in journalism that felt like they didn't like seeing an attractive woman do a jean ad because they themselves don't think that they could do one.
Yeah, well said. Moving on to Stephen Colbert, who doesn't appear to have learnt his lesson. He turned his show into a DNC love-in, and now he's getting sacked. His solution? Well, of course, it is to sit down with Kamala Harris. She will be promoting her memoir in what will likely be a very, very safe space. Shemeka, what do you make of this? I guess in one way, I will watch it. So it will bring eyeballs because I do want to see the nauseating, friendly way that he's going to be talking to her. But this kind of is the problem with the show, and probably one of the reasons why it doesn't resonate with the broader audience.
Yeah, I'm not going to watch it. I'll wait for the clips because I don't need any help being lulled to sleep at night. But I am thankful that she's doing a memoir. But even more than that, I'm thankful that at the end, she lost. That's all that matters to me. Say whatever you want to say in this book about yourself, Kamala, but make sure that you put, when it came to the 2024 election, you lost. That's the most important part.
Well, most journalists don't make any secret of their dislike of Donald Trump, which is why the New York Times raised eyebrows this week by suggesting that his presidency was somewhat successful. Columnist Brett Stevens, who describes himself as a never-Trump conservative, he wrote this in the New York Times. After a disastrous first 100 days, Donald Trump is starting to have a much more successful presidency. This is not what we, his foam-at-the-mouth critics, had planned or perhaps had secretly hoped for. Now, Shemeka, this to me is extremely interesting because there are a lot of people that from the very beginning of the presidency were coming at this from a point of anger, a point where everything he does must be corrupt. But I think looking at maybe some of the outcomes on tariffs, some of the economic data that we're receiving, if you're looking at even just shares, how they're going in the US, there are a lot of positive indicators, and there's a lot of positive policies that are coming out that in this situation, conservatives that were a bit suspicious of Trump, they now seem to be coming around. What do you make of what's happening?
I don't trust them, actually. I do not trust them because for years we have watched them come after this man for simply no reason. So I'm not very hopeful, although this article came out. I'm just not very hopeful that they will actually make a turn to actually support him. I'm looking at everything with suspicion, waiting for the other shoe to drop, because he called it a 100 days, that the first 100 days were disastrous, which just wasn't true. I was so excited those first 100 days. So I'm just taking that with a grain of salt. I don't really trust it. And I'll just keep an eye out, is what I'll say, for Brett and others.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It is interesting that the New York Times would even publish something that is positive about Donald Trump, though. That's the thing that really took me apart. Do you think commercially they are suffering as that, very, very hard left way of thinking about the world? I do think it's becoming more unpopular, and I think mainstream Americans are rejecting it. Maybe some of these newsrooms, and we were just talking about CNN and Jake Tapper actually challenging a Democratic politician on insider trading. It does seem like there is a little bit of a recalibration going on, maybe for commercial reasons, though.
Absolutely. And earlier I spoke about Joy Reid being on CNN. It was actually MSNBC, or what Donald Trump calls MSDNC. But all of these organizations, I do think, are failing. We remember when Donald Trump would always call the New York Times the failing New York Times. And I just think that most of these people understand they can't go another 3 or 4 years as they did with his previous administration. They just can't really go through another 4 years hating him, because so many of us are supporting him that it's like, if you can't beat him, you might as well join him. And they might as well join us on the MAGA train.
Shemeka, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your insights, as always.